This is going to be a slugfest right here, this one coming up.
Toronto Raptors speaking for the first time since the regular season ended on Sunday. Paul Jones here. Of course, we heard from Raptors head coach Nick Nurse, he has some rumors surrounding him right now, potentially going to Lakers for that coaching job after Frank Vogel was let go after their disappointing season. What are your thoughts on this and the realistic expectations of Nick potentially going there?
Well, the fact that it really hasn't been addressed by Toronto publicly says something to me. It's not an issue. Nick is under contract in Toronto. He's preparing for a playoff run, and the Lakers really have to sort out some of their own stuff before they start trying to hire a coach. And I mean, coaches are going to ask questions. What are you doing with the roster? You don't have many draft picks. You're committed almost $150 million to 7 players next year. They've got lots to work out, and I think Nick is pretty focused on what's going on in Toronto.
And what's going to be happening in Philly. He said it was going to be a slugfest,
Yes.
This series that starts on Saturday. How do you feel the teams match up, and your thoughts on this?
I concur with Nick. I think it's going to be a really, really tough series. He seems to scheme well, personnel aside. I mean, there's no Marc Gasol around to flummox Joel Embiid, but they've done a good job of it this year. And whenever they see Philadelphia, they've done a good job with Harden. So it's about Nick's schemes, and then the chess match between what does Philadelphia do to counter that. I think it has the potential to be a really, really difficult series, as Nick says, and it's always the team that's more desperate after losing a game that comes back and plays harder. So be locked in for the long haul.
I know Nick also mentioned that he really wanted his team to get some playoff experiences with the rookies, the young players that haven't experienced it. But Thad Young joining the team late in the season, 15 years in this, 15 years ago was his first playoff experience. And you actually asked him in the presser kind of about that moment when you know you may have a team and they're going to crack. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Well, you watch the playoffs, and it's the team that loses its personality first and kind of, for lack of a better word, panics and tries to do something that they haven't done all year or haven't practiced. That's when things go bad. And Thad talked about that. He's been on one side where it's happened, they've cracked, and they've never recovered. And he's been on the other side when you know you've got your foot on their neck and you're just about to polish them off. So it's about maintaining your personality. And I look at the way the Raptors have played all year. They have a definitive personality. They know how they're going to play. Philadelphia, since the trade, I think they're still trying to figure some things out, but that doesn't make them any less dangerous. So it's going to be a battle of wills at times, and which team, who cracks first? And if you do crack, can you seal it and get back? Or, as Thad said, is that it? The crack can last for one game, or it can break a whole series open.
Now, Pascal didn't quite agree with Nick Nurse's assessment of it being a slugfest. He laughed a little bit, but he said the intensity will double for this. And Pascal and Embiid, they kind of have had it out on the court throughout the series. Pascal's impact on the game, but also about that personality and that they don't want to lose.
Yeah, I mean, Pascal was asked about, how you play. And I thought his answer in that, we know what we have to do. We have to get stops. And he basically said, we have to play a certain way, the way that we know how to play, the way that we've been playing all year. And again, it speaks to that not cracking, not changing, and not losing your personality to give yourself the best chance to win.
I know everyone talks about Embiid, his impact on the game, but the Sixers will be without a player potentially unless the rules change because of COVID. They didn't get their full vaccination when they come back to Canada for Game 3 and 4. How big of a loss is that for the Sixers?
I think it's a big loss because he's a really good defender, Matisse Thybulle. He did a pretty good job on Pascal at times. He can guard one-on-one. He's long, he's athletic, he's angular. He challenges shots. He doesn't disrupt their offense. He fits in nicely. He'll make open shots when they come to him. He'll handle the ball in a non-threatening way. So I think that's a big loss for them, and I think it presents Doc Rivers in Philadelphia with another challenge coming to Toronto without him.
I thought another interesting point through the press conferences was actually Thad, when he was kind of asked about maybe one of the special things about this team was the togetherness and their camaraderie, because yes, that's part of the personality, and I think a lot of people look at the numbers and the stats being like, oh, they have the greatest scorer right now in the league, but I think that togetherness and camaraderie really does have an impact on what happens on the court.
Yeah, it's your chemistry and trust. And, Thad talked about that, knowing that I know that a guy's going to be there, and we talk about this, and so many people get caught up on the numbers, Lindsay, the quantitative stuff. Man, the qualitative stuff really matters. The chemistry, the feelings, the understanding, the ability to talk and communicate. All those things are really important. And I think Thad Young has fit in very quickly with what's going on in Toronto as a 15-year vet. Hasn't taken him long to get the lay of the land. And as I said, I think the Raptors have played that way all year. And it's more than just the numbers with Toronto. Thad even talked about it. We've got all these guys the same size that understand how to play. Pascal said he's asked the coach can you tell this guy if he's playing 4 or 5 or whatever? And Nick hasn't, because I want you to be a basketball player, not just a specialist.
A big thank you to the legend that is Paul Jones. We always love hearing what you have to say and appreciate your analyst on the Raptors. Everyone's been listening to you and following you for years, but make sure to follow along on citynews.ca. We'll have all of your Raptors coverage all week, and of course, Game 1 is this Saturday in Philly.